Mary, I know what I'm going to do tomorrow and the next day and next year and the year after that. I'm shaking the dust of this crummy little town off my feet, and I'm going to see the world. Italy, Greece, the Parthenon, the Colosseum. Then I'm coming back here and go to college and see what they know. And then I'm going to build things. I'm going to build airfields. I'm going to build skyscrapers 100 stories high. I'm going to build bridges a mile long. Were you going to throw a rock?
Hi, welcome to the Bencher Movie Club. This week, part of Ben will be played by my good friend Michael Berwick. Hello, Michael.
Hello.
Michael is an award-winning filmmaker. You are, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, you won the what is it for Long Drive Home? Won an award.
I think that won Best Film, didn't it?
Yeah, best film ever.
Best Film of all time.
But I think the writing done all the heavy lifting on that.
It didn't win Best Director, did it? I think it was just Best Film. But it won 2 awards.
Best Pumpkin.
Best Pumpkin Faced Man.
Benny's not here today because it's Christmas Eve and he's shopping. Mike has decided that since he loves the film we're talking about today, just as much as I love it, I imagine, he's perfect to bring in, and he knows a lot of things about the film and Jimmy Stewart. You're a huge fan of Jimmy Stewart, aren't you?
I am, yeah.
He's part of the Jimmy Stewart fan club in...
Yeah, the official...
Howsham. So we're going to talk about the 1946 classic It's a Wonderful Life. Directed by Frank Capra, who also directed Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and Mr. Deeds Goes to Town. Jimmy Stewart is in it, who plays George. He's in Vertigo, Harvey, Rear Window, Rope, Philadelphia Story, and a bunch of cowboy films.
Bunch of great cowboy films.
Yeah.
The list goes on.
We've got the film on in the background.
Obviously, he made a few films with Frank Capra.
Yeah.
Stewart.
Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Mr. Smith Goes to Washington was the first one. Or wasn't it? I don't think it was actually. It was... You Can't Take It With You was the other one that he made with Frank Capra, which was a great movie actually. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington was a great performance. And that was the one I think a lot of people believed he should have won his Oscar for. A lot of people believe, and I think critics often, when you read certain things, will talk about how his performance was Oscar worthy because he didn't win it that year. He was given the Oscar for Philadelphia Story in 1940. So yeah, there's a scene where he fainted. I think he had this whole thing where he got the doctor to inject something into his vocal cords so that his voice went almost like his voice was going. There's a scene that went on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
In terms of the story, and he was kind of holding the room, and he was there for this kind of prolonged period of time, and he just didn't want to give up his seat. He kept talking and talking and talking, and so he was getting tired and weary, and to kind of aid that and to make his performance more and more believable and exhaustive or whatever, he was injected his vocal cords. But I can't remember what the other films. That was 1938, so I don't know what other films were, up for.
You don't know who won Best
I
Man?
can't remember who won that year, but I know that he didn't win it.
This film also stars Donna Reed as Mary. She's also in a picture of Dorian Gray, Scandal Sheet, From Here to Eternity. Lionel Barrymore plays Potter. He's in Key Largo.
Well, this was Donna Reed's first leading or starring role.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know if her and James Stewart are the 2 leads, and this was the first leading performance for Donna Reed.
Thomas Mitchell plays Uncle Billy. He was in Stagecoach, Gone with the Wind, Where the City Sleeps. You had Henry Travers plays Clarence. He's from The Invisible Man, Shadow of a Doubt. Frank Albertson plays Sam Wainwright. He was in Psycho. He was in Psycho.
Was he?
Yeah.
I only watched that the other day.
It was Tom Cassidy in Psycho.
Ah.
Yeah, he's also in The Electric Man, which I guess was like a prequel to The Elephant Man.
I think it was either, I don't know if it was Henry Travers or I think it might have been Thomas Mitchell. One of them was originally cast to play Potter.
Oh, really? Yeah, because Thomas Mitchell looks more like
Because Clarence,
Potter.
played by Henry Travers, is much more angelic and he kind of fits the role.
That Frank Albertson, he actually died in 1964. He died in his sleep, aged 55, which back at the time was just like considered old age. So they didn't bother investigating. I'll tell you why I like this film. This is one of those films which loads of people, for years, whenever I heard about it, people go, oh, that's like a schmaltzy kind of film. It's like, oh, it's just a feel-good film. It's like really happy sort of thing. But it's not really. I mean, it's a feel-good film. But it's because of all his life and all the tragic moments, like the bits on now, with the pharmacist slapping his ear. When I was trying to describe this to Lily in the car, I was crying when I was telling her the story. So obviously before this, it got him saving his brother, giving him his bad ear.
I think he was actually drunk during the filming of this. The pharmacist, Mr. Gower, I think he was...
Not young George.
And I actually made him bleed by hitting him. And apparently,
Is that real blood?
I'm not sure if that's real blood, but
Because I think that, I don't know, but it's hard to tell in black and white, isn't it?
yeah,
He does look drunk with those watery eyes.
he does. I read something about it before, about him actually hitting him and then apologising to him afterwards. Whether or not that's the bit that's actually captured on camera or not, and that could be an incorrect bit of trivia. But
Someone might have just been describing the scene.
yeah,
But yeah, it's moments like that. It's all just a series of moments, one after the other, where it shows George's selflessness. Despite his wishes to leave the town, and you think a lesser film would go, oh, let's make the happy ending that he gets to finally leave and have his suitcase and go off. That misses the point of the film, because the point of the film is you don't always get what you want from life, but it doesn't mean it's not a good life.
yeah,
You know,
could be a wonderful life, couldn't it?
it could be, and they could make a film about it.
It's interesting what you say about what people say about being schmaltzy and these kind of things, because I've spoken to friends in the past and people I've met when they often talk to me about what's your favourite film and or your favourite Christmas film or whatever, and I'll always say It's a Wonderful Life. I've spoken to people about it before and I've said, have you seen it or do you like it? And I've often heard people say, oh, and then they'll do the famous the line at the end, and every time angel bell rings an angel gets his wings, and they do a little face like it's somehow corny.
They've missed the point entirely. It's like someone coming up to you and going, did you hear that joke? And the punchline is the Irishman did it or something like that. You go, yeah, but you're missing the joke. You're missing the point. It's the payoff. It's like if you only watched, me and Ben done a podcast on Whiplash the other week, and it's those final sort of 10 minutes, which is no dialogue, just the drum solo. Now, if you watch that on its own without watching the preceding film, you just go, oh, he's quite a good drummer, isn't he? But it's only when you see the build-up to it, the emotional impact. So you can't really just watch the end of this film.
No.
Unless you know the film inside out, then you could watch the end and you go, I know what came before this. I know what that means.
Well, they called it capricorn, didn't they? And I don't know if that's because of the corniness, but there was a phrase that was thrown around I've heard a lot.
This old thing? Well, I only wear it when I don't care how I look.
She's quite cute, though. Little, slutty.
Yeah, she's got a very, very small part as a role, but she's also quite
Oh, it's
important,
pivotal, though, yeah. It's like the opposite to Mary. She's the yin to Mary's yang. Because you got Mary, who's sort of one man kind of girl. She's dating that Eeyore guy and starts getting off with Jimmy Stewart on the phone.
She's not really dating him.
Oh, you listen to Mary.
He calls her his girl, but he's obviously not really.
Yeah, but she's obsessed with him, though, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, because she does that picture of him lassoing the moon.
Yeah, she loves
and
him,
stuff like that, and playing the Buffalo Girl record.
Yeah, because he wants to get away, though. She thinks it's almost that Sam Wainwright's the backup plan.
Yeah,
he's already got his own thing going on.
But I just feel sorry for Sam Wainwright, because he's talking to her one minute, all of a sudden, like, the phone drops to the floor and he can hear,
yeah, but
I don't want a house. I tell you this, I don't ever want to wear protection. I just want to... Poor Eeyore, and he's one of the ones... Isn't he one of the biggest ones to bail him out? Sam Wainwright.
Do you remember that scene though when he's on the phone and he's got two women all over him kissing his neck and whatever, and while he's talking to
So he deserves it.
Well, no, he doesn't deserve it, but then he's obviously not serious about her either, is he?
I suppose,
I don't think they were together. I think it was more of they were chatting. I remember there's a scene when he's saying, what about Sam Wainwright? And she's like, yeah, what about him? She wants Jimmy, George, doesn't she?
I think it's good casting his dad. His dad does look similar to him. He's got that sort of long face, hasn't he?
Mm-hmm. There's a scene in that scene at the house which is the last moment he spends with his dad, and when he says to him, do you want a shock? You're a great guy. That was quite powerful. I get a little bit caught up with that. Dad doesn't know what to do, and they have this kind of weird little moment where they look away, and then his brother invites him off to the party, and that's the last time he sees him.
I've seen this film 100 times. I've never really sort of thought that this is the last time he sees his dad. I know it is. Like, if I watched it backwards, I'd go, oh, what's the time he sees? But it's like, because after this, obviously, you have the prom and the floor opening up, and there's quite a few set pieces, and him walking along with Mary, that you forget about his dad. You forget about everyone else, because it's just him and Mary. So when this happens... But next time I watch it, I'll probably cry at this bit as well now. Thanks, Mike.
That's okay.
I don't cry enough at it. I think I cry at this film probably about every 10 to 15 minutes, I reckon, on average. Not like, sobbing, but I'll be like choked up and trying to hold back the tears. And I'll tell you what, by the time it gets to the end, and this is the point of that bit where it's every time a bell rings, that is just like the killer now in the coffin. It's like, if you manage to hold it back... Every time a bell rings.
I think a lot of people...
See, I like how I'm joking. That was actually me trying not to cry then, because just thinking about it. It's one of those things which loads of people slag off Spielberg for, because they say where he goes for the emotional punch. If you look at E.T., Spielberg makes you really depressed. E.T.'s dead. You think, oh my God, I can't believe this. And you see the kids crying, you start crying, you think, oh, this is horrible. When's it going to turn around? So then when he turns around, when all of a sudden E.T. sort of wakes up, you're crying, you're like, he's going to do it, he's going to make it. And that's the same with Wonderful Life, because you see this really nice bloke who's sacrificed his whole life for the well-being of other people, and you think he doesn't deserve to feel that sad. So I cried. So when you see how much he means to everyone, it makes you go start crying. It must be rewarding for him, for George Bailey, to see how much he's loved.
Yeah, I think it's...
I can understand crying watching it, just talking about it.
I often get emotional when I talk about it to people, maybe there's either people that have never seen it or when I'm trying to explain what I love about it so much. Well, James Stewart was famous for playing the everyday man. Well, a lot of people say that, and that kind of is one thing that I get a little bit bothered by sometimes, is that obviously I'm a big advocate for James Stewart. He's my favourite actor. He did play the everyday man in a lot of movies, but the later part of his career, after the war, his careers, like his roles changed.
Like the Hitchcock ones.
Yeah, they got very dark. And the westerns he did, and they were quite revengeful, quite dark and angry. And even in this film, this was his first film after the war. It's the first time that he kissed a woman on screen after the war as well. So there was quite a lot of...
Look, she's just done that bloke. She's a bit of a slapper, isn't she?
He was just chatting her up. I don't think...
Hey, that was my sweetheart. We've been dating since primary school. Oh, why did you go jump in a lake?
So apparently he was... nervous about his on-screen kiss because obviously he was straight out, come back from the Second World War after serving in the war, and he had PTSD and he'd been through quite a bit. He had said to Capra that he didn't want to he was really nervous about doing the scene. So apparently the scene where he kisses Mary on the phone, they agreed that they're going to do it in one unrehearsed take, and apparently it was so passionate, and there's more of that it was all cut so that it would get through the censors.
Really?
Yeah.
God, what? Because I do find that bit when he's kissing her and he's really sort of like...
Quite intense.
Like really intense. It's almost uncomfortable to watch. You think, oh God, how far is he going to go? No, I'm not saying it's what he's going to do.
No, it's a bit much in some ways. It's a bit like, oh God, he's a bit aggressive.
Because she's only sort of not trying to be nice, and he's like... Listen to me.
But there's a lot of built-up tension there, isn't there? Because he's frustrated as well. His life's not working out the way he wanted to, and he's stuck in Bedford Falls. And he clearly loves her, but he wanted to get away. So he's just... It all kind of comes to that point. I like the little things like the sound of the phone dropping and the way he grabs her. Like he's so fed up, but he loves her. Yeah. And it's kind of an interesting emotion, I think. I mean, he played it really well.
It's like he doesn't want to sort of give in to her because of... One thing, she is dating his mate, even if they're not that serious. I think mainly it's because what it signifies, because he knows that he likes her. If he gets with her, that's another stopping for him leaving the town, because he's like, I've made a commitment.
I think this is quite relatable for me as well. I think I always felt like I wanted to get away from my hometown and leave. I don't know, a lot of people feel that sometimes you're drawn back to it, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
And we've always got... A lot of people have hopes, dreams, ambitions, or most people do.
Yeah.
And sometimes things stop you getting... to the places that you want to get to. And he is just, and I was saying, just to tie that up with his characters, because he did play the everyday man very well. Someone that you can relate to, someone you can get on board with and care about and follow. And he did lots of movies playing that kind of character. But
that's harder than people realise. A lot
of people say Tom Hanks is the modern day Jimmy Stewart, don't they? But I mean, he plays lots of everyday kind of men. But he also plays lots of dark characters himself as well, and
like Forrest Gump.
Yeah, loads of genres and loads of loads of interesting characters, right? And you mentioned Philadelphia earlier as well, and the other great Tom Hanks movies. And, James Stewart's got things like just the Hitchcock films alone. Rear Window's quite perverse. He's not an everyday man in that, is he?
Well,
Vertigo. The
first film I think I saw him in was Vertigo, and obviously I'm not going to spoil Vertigo. But I will definitely be doing a podcast on that. I think that's my favourite Hitchcock film, Vertigo.
That's great.
And I remember watching it for the first time, and just it's believable how he's just sort of losing his mind. Again, I'm not going to talk too much because it reveals too much about that film. Yeah, that was the first time I'd seen him in anything. Then I think I saw this after I'd seen Vertigo, which often people would have seen this first because it's like a Christmas family film. But like you said, all I knew about this was a trailer on a videotape I had as a kid. This videotape, it had like a Flintstones Christmas or something like on it. And it had like a little series of little trailers, little clips. And it'd be like, why not watch Frank Capra classic, It's a Wonderful Life? Look, Daddy, every time a bell rings... And I think that's the worst advertisement for this film.
It is.
Because people, even on the front cover, it's that picture, it's that closing shot. And you think, that's misleading because there's not many people actually achieve their dreams. You know, people can have, like, dreams of, like, we both want to be filmmakers. And I want to keep trying to be a filmmaker. But I think the point of this film is don't forget to experience the journey on the way. You've got a whole life where you've made an impact on other people.
Yeah.
Who love you despite you not making it. They just love you because they think for everything else. Oh, God.
Well, you see it in the story, don't you? You see all of the how the impact he has on every single person in that town, all of his friends and his family, and just other people from the town, and all the things that he does for them, and that's huge. It's bigger than anything else, isn't it? And he doesn't realise it because he's caught up in it and he's doing it.
But that's the same as everyone, isn't it?
Yeah, we all have our own individual dreams and goals, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. We've all got our own lives going on, and we're sometimes oblivious to the impact we're making on other people's lives. But I think it was John... I know John Lennon said this as a song. I don't know if it's his original quote, but he said, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. And I think that's true. And this is exactly what that could sum up this film. They could have had that as the tagline for this film. Well, you see when she broke the window, she's done that for real.
Yeah, I've read that too. It's
because they had like a little someone with a pellet gun or
someone
something
lined up to do it for her.
Shoot, but she used to play like baseball. And when Uncle Billy stumbled out of the party, that was actually a crew member dropping a tray of props. That noise, which sounds like a bin.
And he plays to it, doesn't he?
Yeah, and Jimmy Stewart was sort of laughing along, so that's why he said, I'm okay, as if like playing along with it. And they gave that prop a $10 bonus for improving the film.
So I don't know. Yeah, a lot of films before this one used like white painted cornflakes for snow, and this was the first film that kind of changed that, because I think Frank Capra wanted to record live, like he wanted to record sound, so that they invented this new kind of effect with something called foamite, soap and water. And apparently the effects department received like an honorary kind of not an honorary, like a technical achievement Oscar for the creation of it, and it was quite a big deal. The main Oscars, which is interesting because it was nominated for 5, wasn't it? And he didn't win any. He lost out that year to a few things. But
was he nominated?
He was nominated. Yeah, the film
Jimmy Stewart.
Capra. I'm pretty sure he was as well. Yeah. Another one where, like, for me, it's again. I think he should have won for this as well.
So do you watch this every year then? I
watch this every Christmas. Yeah, sometimes more than once.
You watch it in the cinema sometimes as well, don't you?
Sometimes cinema. Sometimes trying to find somewhere like a new experience or a new way of watching it, new position of watching it. But for me, you can't beat being at home at Christmas and watching it with someone that you love. I've got to be in a space where I can completely be absorbed by the film. I need to feel it.
The problem is, because I cry at absolutely everything anyway, this is just like kryptonite. It just gets me every time. And I almost feel uncomfortable watching it with other people, because I know they're looking at me waiting for me to cry, and I'd like to just sort of watch it on my own, so I can just sort of blub away if I want to, start wailing.
Lauren knows the scenes that affect me.
Yeah.
So she'll, when it's on, I can just see her head turn and look at me, and she can see a tear rolling down my cheek, and she's like, "Oh." Yeah. But I mean, most of the time it's. Yeah,
it's they don't mean anything by it.
This scene I find quite powerful.
Yeah, he's defending his dad.
When he's defending his dad, and Potter's saying that he wants to dissolve the building alone, and because Jimmy's going to leave, isn't he? George is going to leave. He's ready to go. His bags are packed. His argument is that they need this one place. If it's one place that they can go to where they haven't got to come crawling to Potter for his money. And the way he says it in the camera, and he gets closer and closer to the camera gradually, and it's all in his eyes, and
you can see how passionate he is sticking up for his dad. It's like it's something he's been wanting to say to Potter for ages and probably never had before this.
The way he says it's something you can't get your hands on, can't get your fingers.
Gnawing at you, and you can't get your mitts on it. Well, anyway, I've said too much. I love the Raven.
Yeah, he's in every Frank Capra film, the Raven.
Is it the same? It's not the same Raven.
It's the same Raven.
No way.
Yeah.
Charles Dickens had a pet Raven. Charles Dickens was quite popular in his own lifetime as well. He's well renowned around the world. He went on a tour of America with his Raven, and his Raven actually used to attack his kids as well. Whenever their kids tried to get close, he'd come down and peck at them, and he'd laugh his head off. It was when he was on a boat out in America, he met Edgar Allan Poe, and Edgar Allan Poe just fell in love with Charles Dickens' Raven, and then wrote The Raven.
This film as well uses lots of close-ups like this. The character will walk into the shot, and there's a couple that really like. There's the one that we just saw there, which is when they say they'll go with Potter. Otherwise, if you leave, they'll go with Potter, and they'll close down the building alone. And it's almost like he'll stop in his tracks, and you can look right into his eyes and feel the emotion. Yeah. And there's a couple of scenes like that. I think it's when he later on, when he leaves. It's when he's looking back at life without him being alive, and he goes to see his mum, and his mum doesn't know who he is. And she kind of slams the door in his face, and he walks down the steps, and it's a wide shot, and he walks right up to the camera. Yeah. And his face looks like he's... Well, so it's interesting as well, because sometimes I look at that, and he looks a little bit shiny. Apparently, that was the film was shot during a heat wave. Because
look at the suits they wear. They wear three-piece suits.
Yeah.
Just holding all that sweat in.
But I don't know if the whole film was during a heat wave, but no, definitely there's the scene, the bank run scene. Or was it the scene when he's running through the village? Yeah. You know, at the end, running through Bedford Falls, and he's shouting all the stuff.
What's he shouting, Mike? Go on, do an impression of him.
Oh, lovely house. Yeah, but apparently during that scene it was a July, and it was a crazy heat wave. I think they took a day or two off production for the heat.
Right, what you were saying just then just made me think of another parallel with this in particular and Steven Spielberg. Because where Steven Spielberg uses that thing for his framing, doesn't he? Where he'll have two actors, say, mid-shot, and without cutting away, he'll manoeuvre them so that one is now a close-up.
That's right, yeah.
You know, and you say that now, I just realise that's what he does quite a bit in this.
I know this film is one of Spielberg's favourite movies.
Ah, well, there you go.
I think he was a big Capra fan.
He's useless, Uncle Billy. He's a bit useless, isn't he? He's a nice old man, don't get me wrong, but, you know, I would not give him a job.
He's a bit of a buffoon, isn't he?
Yeah.
And I think that makes it even harder, because it's his uncle, and his dad's gone, his family, and that scene again when he's lost the money.
Oh,
it's crippling, isn't it?
You feel so sorry for him because, again, Uncle Billy's just not a nasty person.
No, he's a lovely man, and he's just trying to do his best.
Yeah, and he stands up to Potter like a little joking thing, but it just shows how he's sort of an opinionated person. And when he realises that he's screwed up with the money, you can see it's destroyed him. He's so embarrassed.
He's broken.
That he's the one who's ruined it. And that's upsetting when George Bailey then starts telling him off, like shouting at him, and then goes home and shouts at his wife and kids.
Stupid old fool. He's just in there. It's horrible.
Yeah.
And that's really hard. And I think it's interesting because in the parallel then when he shows him, when he's then shown what life would have been like without him, Uncle Billy's in a mental institution, isn't he?
I think the only person you don't find out their alternative fate is Wainwright, Eeyore.
Yeah, that's true.
I think he's the only one of the supporting characters you don't hear what happened to him or see what's happened to him. Because obviously his brother would have died if it weren't for George.
That's right, yeah.
And all those people that his brother saved during the war.
I feel like the journey you go on with the character is so strong. You really get to know everything about him and his life and all the people that he's connects with. And I think when you see the downfall, which starts with the money, that's the start, isn't it? When it's £8,000, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which would have been a lot of money.
Oh, it is a lot of money.
There's a lot of money anyway. But that's all of their money in the bank, isn't it? And he goes to put it in the bank there, and there's that whole scene, isn't there, with...
Well, he looks like he's going to go to prison as well, though.
The fact that he takes the hit, doesn't he, for his uncle and says that it was him. So Potter, it says to Potter, I've misplaced 8,000, and Potter said, you've misplaced 8,000. Because he knows, because obviously in the bank, Potter took the money.
Yeah.
But not on purpose, he was in his newspaper, but he didn't give it back.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have a problem with that, don't they? As Potter never actually
gets his
comeuppance. But a lot of people argue that that's life.
Yeah, and also I think the comeuppance is what's happened. He's got the money, but he's got an endless amount of money. Potter isn't better off for having that 8,000. It means nothing to him because he's so rich anyway. But
he's done it to spite.
Yeah, he wanted to sort of do George Bailey over. He would have found out the next day. It's like, what happened to George Bailey? Oh, they bailed him out. Will they do that for me?
There's a little part of you, or a little part of me, I don't know how you feel, but I sometimes think it would have been interesting to see Potter afterwards. Not because you need to, but just curious.
Yeah.
Oh, what's Potter think of this?
But I also think that's the thing. You can just imagine, like loads of good films where they just end at a certain point and you think, now I can make up the story. I can decide what happened to George Bailey after this. You know, whether he went on to live a happy life now, did he ever travel, whatever. And also with Potter. Did Potter then sort of lose his way, whatever? It doesn't matter. It's literally that one moment in time. And this is what I like about stories anyway, and why I hate prequels. as a general rule, I don't like prequels because I think, well, the story was so good in its first place. I don't need to know about Hansel and Gretel when they were babies and toddlers and what kind of life they had. I don't care because we've got the best story. We've got the main story. It starts at one point and life ends it. This scene is actually used quite a lot on social media at the moment. Yeah, it's been used for the last couple of years. When she breaks the record, they'll have like a song that everyone hates like playing. Happy, one. And then she smashes it.
Yeah, it's interesting as well that he goes through periods of time and they're all played by obviously the same actors, because he goes from being 21 to like I think 40 something within the period of the film. Obviously the makeup make him look younger at the start and then they age him a little bit later.
How old was he when he done this?
He was in his, I think it was either late 30s. He was born in 1908, I think. Yeah, he was. So and this was 1946. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she was younger. She was, I think, late 20s. But interesting, I quite like what they do with his appearance in the film. So not only just the clever use of lighting in the film as it gets darker, you'll know the shadows and everything else, and that's great. That's really great. But I also really like what they do with him and the way they age him. And he starts getting grey hairs. And you know the scene when, obviously after all the money's gone, and it starts to get really dark, his hair all starts to flop down, he's got bags under his eyes, he looks tired and haggard, exhausted, and that adds so much more.
Because in many ways it was harder to sort of show things like in black and white. You literally had to make it black and white, almost over the top. But if you do it too over the top, it just looks like a Laurel Hardy or Charlie Chaplin type thing. So with a film like this, obviously they have to find the right balance.
It's the scene with, it's when he comes home. This is the most powerful scene in the film for me, is when he comes home after the money's gone and they can't find it. That whole scene, the way it plays out, he runs upstairs to see Zuzu, comes back down, there's the phone call, isn't there, with the school teacher and the argument, and then he sits on the chair and his little boy starts putting tinsel on his hair, and he grabs his son and he holds him, and the kid's putting tinsel on his hair, and he starts crying into his child. And it's just starting to build at that point, isn't it? Obviously, he sees Zuzu, he sees all the kids, and he starts yelling at the kids. I don't know if it's... And I definitely felt this way before I became a father as well, but I always found it super powerful. Yeah. And he comes home, it's just the moody lighting, they're decorating the tree, and everything's happy at home, but he's not. And he enters the scene after all the money's gone. And then there's kind of all the children are playing, and they want to talk to him, and they need his help, and he goes to see Zuzu. He's holding his child, he starts crying into the child. And it's then when he snaps and it goes quiet. I feel my heart going, and I can feel this real something's happening. I'm like, oh god,
because he's universally upset his entire family unit. It's not like he's upset one of them by accident. He's upset. He's just scared them all.
But he's absolutely destroyed, and everything's gone wrong
because they've never heard him. The kids have never heard him go like that.
No.
You know, you can tell he's not like an abusive father, and she's very rarely. Only the first time he kissed her, he looked a bit freaky, but otherwise she didn't feel threatened by him. You know, and for that she's worried because she thinks something's wrong.
Yeah, and he swipes all of the when he starts swiping all the stuff off the table, the plans and everything on the table, and the lamp falls down, and there's kind of the light that comes across his face, and his shot's looking up at him a little bit, and his hair's all down, and he's scraggly, and it's horrible.
Looks like a monster.
It's awful. Like I cry at that moment. And I think he starts saying sorry, I'm sorry, and he obviously eventually leaves. But I think you can see a lot of the real James Stewart in that character. And then he was apparently in interviews he had said that he really related to George Bailey. And obviously this, again, first film after the war, a lot of that was probably real anger from his PTSD and whatever else. And I think he's showing real emotion through the character. Yeah. Like when he's snapping and he's angry, when I watch it, I feel a little bit like that feels really raw.
Scene for me in this, which I think feels the most realist, like the one you can think, I don't even know if he's acting there, is in the bar when he's praying, where he's all shaking, and it seems so genuine. And Capra has closed in. He liked it so much he had it closer. That's why it looks a little bit blurry, doesn't it?
It's grainy, isn't it? Because they punch into for the close-up out the same shot. They used because it was really powerful. And he became quite overwhelmed during the filming of that scene. He really felt it, and he cried himself in the shot. Yeah. And because it was so real and raw, they, like you said, they used it and they punched in for a close-up out of the same shot, which is why in the film it looks grainy, because they've...
That's literally his last prayer. He's like, please, please. And then he gets punched in the face, And that's it. He thinks, right, I'll kill myself.
I got punched in the nose.
I'm going to edit that. I'm going to make a little TikTok with Jimmy Stewart getting punched and then having Glenn from Wedding Singer.
Hey, why don't you write a song about this? You can call it, I got punched in the nose for sticking my face in other people's business.
There's a run on the bank.
Yeah, everyone wants their money.
Everyone wants their money, and Potter's going to give them 10 cents on the, no, 50 cents on the dollar, didn't they?
Yeah.
And they all think they're going to get their money. They think the building alone's kind of had its day, and they want their money.
Yeah.
And he has to try and convince them otherwise. And this is another really big turning point in the plot, isn't it? This is another big moment.
Yeah, this scene, the reason I was laughed just then is because before I see this film, I see the parody of this scene in Simpsons.
Oh, have you?
So when Bart goes into a bank and he's like on his day off and he thinks I'm bored, so he goes, insolvent? The bank's only got enough money for the next 3 customers, and all the people start like banging on the thing, and his character come out clearly meant to be Jimmy Stewart and goes, your money's not here, it's in Bob's house and Bill's house. And Moko's, what are you doing with my money in your house, Bill? And punches him.
Yeah, that's good.
And I just thought that was, even at the time, I thought that's quite funny, but I didn't get it until I watched this film, and then I found it hilarious. But now, whenever I watch this, and he says, it's in Bill's house or Bob's house, I imagine one of the characters turning around and punching some bloke going, Bill, give me my money.
Wait a minute, just a second here. No, I don't have your money here. It's in Bill's house and Fred's house.
Hey, what the hell you doing with my money in your house, Fred?
It's a powerful scene, this, as well, because you've got all these people. It starts with the guy who wants all his money. Because I want it all.
Yeah.
And he says, well, how much do you need? And he says, I'll take whatever it's.
And he's relentless. He wants it all.
Yeah, he wants all his money, but he's only got what he's got, and he wants everyone to kind of stick with him because he wants everyone to kind of keep Potter out of their business and keep everyone kind of not living in his slums and all that. And anyway, so it goes around the different characters to say, I'll take this much and I'll take this much, and then there's that lady who says, I'll take $17.50.
And he kisses her.
And he kisses her because that's all. That wasn't in the script, and it was improvised.
Yeah.
I think that Frank Capra told her to say that, and James Stewart's reaction was
genuine because it's good timing, because the previous ones before that, they're like, all right, well, give me 50 or give me 100, and you thought they're all going to be like that.
Yeah,
and
it takes me off guard every time I cry. I get a tear. But it's also beautiful because his reaction to it, and because he's in the character. I mean, when you watch it and you think to yourself, you don't just see James Stewart. You feel this George Bailey. He has become him.
And these characters, and the old woman, she's not really significant in any other part of the film. It's literally that sort of one line.
But it's big.
That kind old woman, it paints an entire character with just one line. Because you think, even though she's panicking, she wants us to be reasonable. So she's like, I'll just take what I need.
Yeah.
Yeah, rather than all these greedy bastards.
I think this film does that a lot well with lots of these kind of smaller characters, with the cab driver, with the policeman, with all the little parts. They're all so important.
And this is a complex, original part of the plot. You don't see this kind of storytelling in most films. They're thinking, we're going to take something intricate, sort of like at the very end of Trading Places, where they say about what we're going to do, we're going to buy high, sell low, do this. They have faith in the audience that they'll keep up. It's a brilliant idea that they've just got to keep hold of money till 6 o'clock, and they $2, that's all they've got left, and they think, oh phew, we haven't had to close, we'll be all right now, we just had to make it through today.
It's significant.
And again, huge sacrifice for him because he didn't have to do it. He was about to go on his honeymoon.
Just another thing that the build up to the big turning point when the money goes and he starts thinking about suicide, which is, it's horrendous really. The themes of the film are so dark, which might be another big, which I've read or a lot about why the film flopped, or was considered a flop when it came out. It's because it didn't make its money back at the box office, and a lot of people might believe that was because it came out just after the war. People weren't ready for this kind of film. It's quite deep, it's quite dark, it's quite sad.
But it's ultimately happy.
About suicide. Well, it's only really the end, the beginning and the end. The end's super happy.
Yeah.
And also, people consider it the greatest Christmas film ever made, but only the last sort of half an hour is Christmas. The other hour and a half is drama.
Yeah. Whereas Die Hard is entirely Christmas. So Die Hard's more of a Christmas film than It's a Wonderful Life. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like you could watch this film any time of year. And I always save it for Christmas because the end gives me such a warm buzz. And I feel like Christmas will never be Christmas without watching this film.
There's Bert and Ernie, who, of course, they named the Sesame Street characters after, didn't they?
I think apparently there's a complete coincidence.
Really?
I read that was there any influence either way, and there wasn't.
So you're wrong there, Charlie.
No, it's not.
Sorry. Actually, that's not
I'm just saying I read that it was coincidence, apparently. Yeah, but when he takes all the little details in the end when he's running up the stairs and he grabs it, because obviously we've seen him throughout the film and he gets really frustrated by that it's loose, and he's like almost like, oh, someone's got to fix this. I mean, he hates the house, doesn't he, that they move into from the start?
Yeah.
Because he's like, I wouldn't live in it as a ghost, he says to her when she throws the rock through the window. And obviously then she transforms the house.
It makes it a family home.
But he complains, obviously, during the scene when he's lost the money, that it's drafty and cold. Why did we ever move here? Why do we have to have all these kids? He's starting to really break down. And there's all those little things, like his anger when he grabs the newel cap and he's like looks at it and it's like.
But then when he comes back afterwards, he kisses it.
At the end, he kisses it because he loves it. It's like this old home, and he's like realizes what he has. Even the little details, like the little things on his staircase, he just loves.
Although you have these lovely moments like this where she's done up the house, so it's to show his life weren't just a big depressing thing, because you'd go, oh, I'd killed myself ages ago. It's just a series of like happy moments despite him trying to do something else. Second prize, as it were, is probably better than what first prize was, because if he'd got his dream straight away the first time he tried to leave, he wouldn't have the kids, everything that's happened after that point. Because when's he first trying to leave? He tries to leave right at the beginning, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Or when he's first an adult and he's got a big suitcase. I want a big one. Don't we all, Jimmy? When he first tries to leave, him and Mary aren't an item, are they?
No,
so
all he's concerned about is that he's leaving this town.
Yeah,
he's going to fulfill his dreams.
He would have left him and Mary. Chances are he would never have come back, and he would never have seen Mary again. And all these other people, all the other stuff. Okay, he saved his brother, but all the other things that you see go wrong at the end probably would have happened. It would have turned into Pottersville.
And it's people like Martini gets his own house. That's all because of George Bailey as well. So this film was even made in black and white, and then there's in the more recent years there was a colorized version of it, which I've watched once, just because it was interesting to see how they used the colors and where they thought the colors might be. But it's best in black and white. Like, it's made black and white for a reason. The lighting and the shadows. It's just really stunning. It's a beautiful film. I always think it's one of those films that I know it's black and white. Because I was going to say, it's a film that's not dated. I know it's a film in the 40s, and I know it's black and white, but it's well constructed. Beautiful framing. Great performances, great actors, great lighting, and all these things. I always think that the opening scene is the only thing that's a little bit like when it starts.
What, with the stars?
With the stars and the planets talking, because I've watched it with people the first time when that starts, and they look at me as if to say, really?
This is the film that you like.
Because it's your favourite film. What's this weird talking planets?
Is this the whole film?
Because that's the only thing in terms of technology, and also when Clarence disappears as a ghost later, they just blink him out. The only things that are really a bit like, oh, that's funny. Although
when he disappears, when I think it's Ernie, who's the cop? Is the cop Bert? When the cop's got him on the floor and then he disappears, I think that's the bit which I thought, actually, that's all right.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's not bad.
It doesn't look bad for the time.
No,
there was, and
you allow it, don't you?
Like you were saying with the black and white, because every bit of lighting, every shot they considered in black and white only.
That's what I mean.
It would, when you colorise things like that, it's like you wouldn't colorise Psycho, even though at the time there was colour films.
Yeah. He
decided black and white for a reason, and I think black and white works really well. It's a shame there aren't more films, modern films, which resolve to that. And I can understand it's mainly the influence of the studios, because the studios go, no, we don't want a black and white film. People are going to walk out. They don't have enough credit for it. But I think sometimes when
you can hide things in black and white, like certain things that you don't want to be seen.
But I also think it looks so punchy, so dramatic. It stands out so much more sometimes than colour. I can't, with black and white, you're focused on the characters. It's just that it's almost like a piece of art. You're looking at this picture. Like, you can appreciate simplicity in art. It hasn't all got to be complicated. It ain't all got to be the Sistine Chapel. It can be like a nice simple picture and you think, I really like that. It speaks to me. There's so much about it.
I never watched this film and think, I wonder what colour George Bailey's jacket was.
I didn't know he was going to say that.
Do you know what I mean? Or,
Yeah.
Or what colour hat that is, or what colour car is that? Because it's not necessary. And I think your mind figures all that out for yourself. You don't need it to be shown it. It's.
And it could also be like the same principle as when people read a book and then they watch the film and they go, "Oh, the book's better." It's because in their mind they've had to make things up. And you don't even realise on a subconscious level it's things that are personal to you. So if you look at the colours on there, you probably imagine different colours to what I would imagine because it reflects your personality. It's whatever you find comforting. So you'd be thinking, "Oh, he's got a brown suit, George there," and I might be thinking, "No, I think it's like a grey suit or something." Or the tie. "Oh, he's got like a red tie. No, it's like a yellow tie or something." It really depends upon you.
Yeah.
And it's because where you can project your own emotions and own feelings onto things, it leaves more possibility to you liking a film. It's
I
like...
suppose, and also making it... Sorry, go on.
No, so it's like, it's what your imagination's always going to be what you see. So the same principle with things like in Jaws, not seeing the shark is more powerful than seeing the shark. Because in your mind, the shark's there. Someone else's mind, the shark's over here. So if you give the audience more to play with in their mind, they come away more rewarded, I think. They come away from the film going, "I love that film," and they don't realise they loved it because they weren't shown everything. They had to do the work themselves. Whereas if you're shown absolutely everything, again, why I don't like prequels, this is why he turned into a psycho killer, and blah, 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 and it's painted dot to dot. You're like, okay, well, I've done no work. You've just told me a story. You let me not contribute at all.
I think also with black and white, like they would have... The costumes, the set dress and everything would be considered with the film that they're going to use, with the film stock they're going to use. So they would have gone, "Oh, this is the suit that George Bailey's going to wear, and it's a textured suit." They go, "Okay, this is going to look great," and using this stock or this lens or whatever. I think it's definitely really well thought about. So then to suddenly go, "Let's put this into colour," because a lot of people would say, aren't they? "I don't like black and white films." Okay, well. I remember showing it to people for the first time, and I've got it like on my Blu-ray, and they'll see it as a colourised version. Go, "What's the colour one?" No.
I think it does a disservice to the film, and I don't like it when films deliberately do anything to change the story just to suit a certain art form or something. Like when people when they started doing 3D films, and they'd have someone point something at the camera. Now, when you're watching it in 2D, you're thinking, why is he pointing it at me? It's stupid. It doesn't work. It's so obvious. It's like, well, obviously they've done that because it's 3D. It's like watching Jaws 3D, the third Jaws film. That was shot for 3D films. And watching it, some of the bits where the shark's sort of floating towards the camera, you just think, oh, it's so disturbing.
Yeah, and there's a darkness to this film, and obviously that big middle section where it does get quite dark and quite sinister.
I think someone wanting to watch a black and white film in colour is akin to someone saying, "I don't want to read the subtitles, put the dub on. I want the English dub." And you're thinking, well, you're not watching the original thing.
It's considered James Stewart's favourite performance of his, favourite character that he ever played, and it's Frank Capra's favourite movie of his own.
So you said he had PTSD from the war. Did he ever divulge specific things that sort of disturbed him?
Yeah, I read his biography. There's a lot of talk about the war and him trying to join up. He always wanted to join. He always wanted to serve because his father did, and it was something he always wanted to do. And I think he had to keep trying to pad himself out, and he did there were some things he did to kind of trick the thing to make him believe he was heavier than he was.
Was there any specific moments that you know of during the war where what might have been caused his PTSD?
Yeah, I know that under his command there was a plane that went down. It was something about the wings came off. Yeah, one I think it was a parachute made it out and the rest of the crew plummeted. James Stewart and the World War II mission. So immediately after Dixie Flyer was hit, the first of several planes in the 445th went down in the hail of flak. Stewart could see as the wings of one B-24 under his command came off and the aircraft disintegrated mid-air. Only one parachute made it out and the rest of the crew plummeted. Another interesting thing to talk about, before you do your wrap-up, is the spiritual side. How do you feel about that with It's Wonderful Life? Because I remember being at university and being in a class and we were talking about films, and I'd mentioned to the tutor in front of all these people that It's Wonderful Life was my favourite film, and she sort of said, "Oh, you're quite a spiritual person then?" I said, "No. I mean, I'm not a religious person. I don't believe in a God or anything like that. There's maybe some spiritual things that I'd like to think I'd maybe believe in. But I suppose I don't think of this film, and I know there's a lot of that, isn't there? Obviously, Clarence is we haven't talked really much about Clarence, have we? But there's obviously there's a whole spiritual side to the film and a religious side to the film, like the praying, an angel coming down to save him. And I don't necessarily think about that much.
I don't think that's important though, because I think even if you don't believe it, you can suspend disbelief. It's the same as if you're watching Lord of the Rings or a Marvel film. You know there's not elves and dwarves and stuff, and you know there's not superheroes, but you suspend disbelief for that. I'm not saying you know for definite there's no angels and gods and stuff like that, but you don't have to. It's the same as non-Christians celebrating Christmas. Everyone can get involved in it. Everyone can like enjoy the moment, and I think it's the same as this. It's like I'm agnostic. I'm not bothered. I don't think much about it. But I watch this film and I think, oh, wouldn't that be lovely? Wouldn't that be nice? It's nice to hear these stories. It's nice to hear about people like Ghost. I watched Ghost the other day and I thought, I hope that's what happens. Well, I don't want to get dragged away by these black spirit ghosts. But if it's the nice thing... If it's the nice thing, the lights, and you like to think that there is something afterwards.
But this plays a lot on religion, though, in that sense, though. I mean, not plays on it, sorry, that's the wrong thing to say. It has a very religious aspect to it, like the idea of an angel diving in to save you, and then you're showing what life was going to be like, and then, you know, and he's praying, isn't he? Because he's not a praying man. That was obviously another big scene, wasn't it, which we mentioned earlier. He's praying, because he doesn't often pray. And by praying, obviously, this guardian angel comes down to kind of save him. It's quite, it's very spiritual, isn't it?
So what's your plans for Christmas?
Well, tomorrow?
Yeah.
Probably watch It's a Wonderful Life.
Cry yourself to sleep.
Spend some time with the family.
Oh,
Look forward to Christmas morning with the baby.
Nice.
How about you?
I'll probably do the same. I'll hang outside your window. Your Christmas sounds lovely. And I'll just watch you. Like Clarence. A big grin on my face wearing a white nightgown. And Emily could point, look, Daddy, weirdo.
The bell rings, a creep appears at the window.
No, so yeah, I don't know actually. Just spend it with family and eat, I guess. But whatever you're all doing, have a happy Christmas. And next week, Ben is decided for the 80s British cult classic Party, written and starring Daniel Peacock. You've not seen that film, have you? Party. It's actually on YouTube. The film in its entirety. So if you're interested in listening to the podcast next week, check it out on YouTube or wherever you can find it. It's a great sort of fun British comedy, kitchen sink drama type. But it's easy. It's an easy watch. It's like it's almost like a sketch after sketch after sketch. All these like mishaps. If you're into sort of British comedy from the 80s, it's perfect for you. So that's next week. Thanks for listening, everyone, and have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Look, Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
Say, what kind of a teacher are you anyway? What, is this the sort of thing we pay taxes for, to have teachers like you, stupid, silly, careless people that send our kids home without any clothes on? You know, maybe my kids aren't the best dressed kids, and maybe they don't have any decent clothes. Oh, that's stupid.